I think that the reason why the state focused so much on Bridge Guy and the video of Bridge Guy is because he really was Schrodinger's perpetrator. Like, you could project anything you wanted onto that grainy little video of Bridge Guy. You can't tell how tall he is. You can't really tell how old he is. You can't really tell what he looks like. He's dressed in an extremely nondescript way for this part of the country. And so there's a reason why there were, thousands of tips flooding in of people thinking, my ex-husband looks just like Bridge Guy, or the, neighbor down the street looks just like Bridge Guy. And so that's a point for the state to focus on, because if they focus on the timeline, if they focus on the crime scene, those are much, much, much harder things to explain. And so you don't
100%.
want the jury thinking about those particular issues, because, if they're trying to fill in the gaps and think about, what explains these discrepancies, they might reach on the conclusion that, well, the theory that the state is pitching here, that Richard Allen did this all by himself in this time frame for these reasons, it really doesn't add up with what's objectively there on the ground. So it's much easier to just rely on that desire to try to fill in the gaps and to try to solve the crime, and to frankly assume that, well, if police picked this guy, they must have had a good reason to do it. They got that, like Mo is saying, substantiated with those confessions that they got. And I think for a lot of people that might just be the end of the story.
But they just overlooked the fact that those crime scene photos that they looked at, they do not align with the story, like, at all.
So
I agree.
I have a question that may be out there, but do you think that the satanic panic, the kind of overreach, really possibly pushed the police into, this is not that, we are not going to go through that, we are not going to have the West Memphis 3, and they really just put blinders on the whole thing from the get-go? Because that kind of seems to be the jive I've gotten, where it's like, yes, Odinism is, when I saw the Frank's motion, when I first heard like the bullet points come out, I was like, oh my God, defense man bear pig? Really? This is what we're going with? For cereal.
I remember.
But I've read the whole thing. I did videos on it, and everything came from the discovery. Everything came from them doing their own investigation. And the fact that this was not allowed in, this possibly exculpatory evidence, the lack of parity between the defense and the states, which I think will be a really big thing, but I'm not a lawyer, so. But for people that have watched the entire time and lived here, we kind of adopted Libby and Abby. And we kind of, they were our kids. We wanted to find out the truth, and we wanted to learn it. And I was so relieved when Richard Allen was caught, because I thought, finally, we caught the monster. And then I read the probable cause affidavit, and I was like, what the hell do they have with him? And that's the first time I learned what really happened to the girls. They were so close-lipped about the crime scene, about everything else. I thought they'd been shot.
Wow.
So... But I don't know how to work Reddit, so I didn't dig deep into the Delphi rabbit hole at that time. But that's the jarring thing. They had all of this evidence. They didn't share with us. They kicked out the FBI. All these things that don't make sense. And we have to sit here and take it. And it is so frustrating, because as of right now, Indiana, my city, or my state, has co-signed justice that I don't co-sign.
I understand very much the perspective that this Odinism angle, it seems wild, it seems improbable, it seems bizarre, it seems like the satanic panic throwback, like you're suggesting, and I think it may very well be. The problem that I have a few problems with it. I mean, number one is just the straightforward, if it's so stupid, then let the jury make that decision. It doesn't seem to be a good justification for me to not litigate the question. And by not litigating it, it means we don't actually get to explore the facts and get a better sense of, is this grounded in some kind of reality, or is this just a fantastical something that was spun up by investigators early on. The other concern that I have with it is that the justifications that were given by law enforcement for clearing these original third-party culprits, they don't stand up to scrutiny, in my opinion, and certainly not compared to the treatment that they gave to Mr. Allen. When Elvis Fields explains he's at this hospital and the reason his phone isn't there, it won't place him there, is because they use, signal jammers at hospitals for people's privacy. This is not a credible explanation, but this seems to be enough, for law enforcement to say, okay, well, nothing else to see here, time to move on. When Brad Holder says, no, it can't be me because I was at work until 4:30 and we've got his records there. And police say, okay, that's it, can't be him. But your medical examiner can't place the time of death for these girls to any time sooner, any time more precise than between when they disappeared and when they were found the next day. So it's only if you are tunnel vision focused on a single person perpetrator that
Yes.
a partial alibi like that for the first 2 hours of a 20-some hour period would be enough to clear somebody.